What's going on, everyone? My name is Jake, this is Where I Talk Capes, and today we are here to talk about the Avengers Doomsday cast announcement. Now, by the time you see this video, it will be Sunday. This cast announcement was done on Wednesday, I believe. It was done as I was coming home from work. I was very tired and I did not have time to film a video until now. So I'm not just here to react to everyone who's been announced. I'm here to kind of talk about Doomsday a little bit more in depth. I'm here to talk about the cast announcement. But I'm here to talk about what that kind of signifies for me and what I'm seeing and how I'm feeling based on just all of that news and all of the new cast announcements. So, for those who missed it, Marvel Studios did a big, what turned out to be 5-hour live stream where the camera just went down a row, basically, to be like, this person is in Doomsday. It's like the cast chairs with everyone's name in the back, and it'd be, this person's in Doomsday. And then, kind of in the same way that they did, where they were now when you watch back No Way Home, not in the cinema. When you watch No Way Home back at your house, you realise that Marvel have... watching that movie. Now, Marvel left applause gaps in that movie, and they've not edited it for the home release. Now, because that came... Well, this is a complete aside, but that's why you watch Jake Talks Capes, to listen to me waffle. That movie came out at the end of 2021, right after lockdown. It was the first real big event back in cinema. It was the first time I'd sat next to someone in the cinema, like right next to me for a very, very long time. Was at Spider-Man No Way Home, and it was such a great day. There's like, you know, things are happening, we're all excited, we're all back in. But you watch that back now in the comfort of your home, and you see, you know, Andrew Garfield comes in, takes his mask off, and then just waits for 3 seconds before he says anything. He may as well look at the camera and go, look at his back. Right, anyway, back to what was my line. Like, that's basically what Marvel did with this cast announcement, is they did the equivalent of leaving the applause gaps in No Way Home. So with this announcement, the camera pans down and it goes, here is this person's chair on set. Okay, we've given Twitter enough time to react to it. Now here's Vanessa Kirby's chair. Now here's Pedro Pascal. Yeah, you know, and then through that, we get all the names that are announced for this movie. So, let's run through all the names as I look at the cast announcement here. I'm going to read them off in order as they come. Chris Hemsworth is going to be returning as Thor. Vanessa Kirby will be returning as Sue Storm. Anthony Mackie will be returning as Captain America. Sebastian Stan will be returning as Bucky Barnes. Letitia Wright will be returning as Shuri, Black Panther. Paul Rudd will be returning as Scott Lang, Ant-Man. Wyatt Russell will be returning as US Agent. Tenoch Huerta will be returning as Namor. Eben Moss-Backrack will be returning as The Thing, Ben Grimm. Simu Liu will be returning as Shang-Chi. Florence Pugh will be returning as Yelena. Kelsey Grammer will be returning as Beast. Lewis Pullman will be returning as Sentry. Danny Ramirez will be returning as Falcon. Joseph Quinn will be returning as Johnny Storm. David Harbour will be returning as Alexei, the Red Guardian. Winston Duke will be returning as M'Baku. Hannah John Kamen will be returning as Ghost. Tom Hiddleston will be returning as Loki. Patrick Stewart will be returning as Professor X. Ian McKellen will be returning as Magneto. Alan Cumming will be returning as Nightcrawler. Rebecca Romijn will be returning as Mystique. James Marsden will be returning as Cyclops. Channing Tatum will be returning as Gambit. Pedro Pascal will be returning as Reed Richards. And then, of course, Robert Downey Jr. is back, not as Iron Man, as Doctor Doom. Now, there are a few major things to pick up on here for this Avengers cast announcement, and let's just go to the most obvious one, all of the returning Fox X-Men characters. This is the 4th time we've said goodbye to the Fox X-Men universe, and I think it's going to be the 4th time I watch Professor X die on screen. Now, don't shout at me. I've still not seen Logan. I have reasons. The Fox X-Men universe and all the timelines got way too confusing for me, so I just kind of stopped caring about Fox X-Men. When I was an early teenager, that movie came out in 2017. I just had a bit of a horrible summer in 2017. I didn't go see many movies. I missed The Nice Guys, for God's sakes. I've still not seen it. I'm catching up through all the Fox X-Men. I'll watch Days of Future Past for the first time last year. That's a good film. Does he die in that too? Does he die in the bad timeline? I think he does. And then I think someone said he dies in Logan. And then he dies in Multiverse of Madness. So we've had to watch Patrick Stewart, Professor X die 3 times confirmed, I think, maybe. 4 times definite. I'm pretty sure it's 4 times. This is going to be the 5th time we watch Patrick Stewart die as Professor X on screen. Give him a fucking break. But no, the big talking point from this is the return of all of those Fox X-Men characters. Obviously, James Marsden coming back. Ignore the work going on outside my flat. James Marsden coming back as Cyclops. I'm actually a big fan of. I For the most part, like James Marsden as Cyclops, I don't particularly think the writing worked in his favour. I think the writing of James Marsden Cyclops did a lot to contribute to the sort of view that Cyclops is a little whiny bitch when he shouldn't be, but I think James Marsden as Cyclops is very good, and I think James Marsden as Cyclops did the best with what he was given. Of course, Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are fantastic. Rebecca Romijn as Mystique, fantastic. Alan Cumming coming back as Nightcrawler, I'm really into that. He's probably my favourite thing about my favourite X-Men movie is Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler. But again, this to me is kind of endemic of my issues with Doomsday. But we'll get onto that in a minute. This has also confirmed what we knew from the Thunderbolts trailer, that Taskmaster is going to die in the Thunderbolts. Because all of the announced Thunderbolts, including Sentry, are in this cast announcement, and Taskmaster is not. Now, we knew that when the trailers came out and there was shots of Taskmaster and very clearly the same sort of 3-4 scenes and nothing from later on in the movie, so we knew that Taskmaster was going to get got. But this also confirms that we're going to be pouring one out for Taskmaster when we all go watch Thunderbolts. This is also the first appearance of Shang-Chi since his movie. This is the first appearance of Letitia Wright as Shuri, the current Black Panther, and M'Baku, since Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We also have the return of Loki and Thor. Now, I understand obviously there's time stuff. This isn't his Loki, this is a variant Loki that became good and worked for the TVA, and Thor's away with his daughter now and doing all that stuff, so that's going to be fun. We have Namor back, sort of solidifying his position as a sort of an anti-hero and a bit of a tweener, I guess, to use a wrestling term, on the comic books channel, like he is in the comic books. We also have the return of Paul Rudd's Ant-Man, the king of the quantum realm, essentially, the man who's responsible for all of this happening. And of course we have Captain America back, Anthony Mackie as Captain America, because he, at the end of Captain America Big Brave Bird, said, I gotta get the Avengers back together, baby, because there's a Doctor Doom coming. And then obviously we've got Robert Downey Jr., and we know my thoughts on that. But this announcement to me sort of speaks to the major problems with this. And the major problems with this is the Russo brothers. We know my thoughts on the Russo brothers. I do not like them. I think in terms of directors, I think they are probably best suited to Marvel stuff, because Marvel write and they already plan out your fight scenes for you, essentially, and all your big set pieces. The Russo brothers are, I guess, essentially... to give like a football analogy, the Russo brothers are like a coach, like a new school coach, where like the club buys players and they say this is the vision, and then they just kind of pick a coach to bring these people in, whereas, you know, as opposed to like an old school manager who plays his style with his players and the club becomes his vision, the Russo brothers are very much coach directors. They are given what they're given and they just put it out. They are not storytellers, they are not managers, they don't really have any clear consistent vision. Let's look at the Grey Man, let's look at the Electric State. These guys put up stinkers and I don't like them. And we've already been over their insistence to talk about AI and how generative AI can help fix Hollywood, and how they want to be the first people to direct a movie with a script written entirely by generative AI. And again, if you as a filmmaker are advocating the use of generative AI within the creative process, you simply do not understand the medium in which you operate. But apart from that, I think this, to me, sort of screams... The hiring of the Russos for this and Secret Wars, to me, was a desperate jump to go, guys, look, these guys did Endgame, remember Endgame, everyone liked Endgame. But with people who are kind of showing themselves to consistently be creatively bankrupt, instead of trying to do anything good and interesting, because Downey as Doom is interesting, but that's bad and interesting. You know, instead of having directors like Coogler and Destin Daniel Cretton, who have made some of the most impressive and full of heart movies, you know, of the MCU. You know, Shang-Chi, let's not forget, before the big dragon fight that they pre-approved and made before they got to make that movie, Shang-Chi was one of the best MCU movies for most of its runtime. And, you know, the big fight with the dragon is just kind of thematically inconsistent, and totally inconsistent with the rest of the film, but I think that film is a solid 9 up until that point. I give it a solid 8 out of 10 in total, but it's one of the better Marvel films until that big fight with the dragon kind of makes it lose its direction. You're just bringing in these guys to fulfill the corporate vision. And the corporate vision is clearly get as many people in as possible, spend $500 million on this movie, because people will go see it if we bring back Professor X, and we'll maybe gain some good faith to let people come and see the new Professor X in a few years. It's this. This is what this movie is. You got any good writing? Nah, we got hype moments and aura. That's the movie. And I'm not excited. I think this, like I say, is very... This cast announcement has sort of proven all of my worries to me. In my head, it's confirmed all of the things I was worried about, all of the sort of worst case scenario. Well, it's not the worst case scenario for this movie. The worst case scenario would be Marvel taking the project out of the hands of actual creative and visionary directors and handing it to the Russo brothers. And the second worst case scenario would be doing something crazy, like bringing Robert Downey Jr. back to play Doctor Doom just for shock value. The third worst case scenario is bringing everyone else back because people will want to go see it. Deadpool and Wolverine made a fucking $1 billion probably. That had old Fox X-Men. As we move into the third saga of the MCU, probably going to be titled the Mutant Saga, we obviously need to say, and make a transition, as obviously the Multiverse Saga was meant to be there was the transition out of the original OG6 Avengers into this, even though it had no consistency and no through line and just letting projects exist to let projects exist. But why are we saying goodbye to the Fox X-Men for, the fourth time now? We're doing all this to give a big farewell to characters who, in the grand scheme of things, mean nothing to this specific franchise. It was cool to do it with Deadpool, fair enough, but we don't need to be doing it here. If anything, this is where we should be introducing the new Professor X and the new Magneto, rather. But if we do it in this movie, they're just immediately going to be compared to those guys because they're going to be stood right next to them. I just think this cast announcement, to me, shows a lack of foresight and a lack of ambition for this movie. And it's confirmed all of my... It's sort of, to me, everything that I've been worried about, it feels as though everything I've been worried about has been validated through this cast announcement. Now, obviously, it's a big Avengers movie. We have all the big heroes. We've got the Fantastic Four. We've got Black Panther. We've got M'Baku. We've got fucking M'Baku back, baby. Woo! I love M'Baku. M'Baku should have become the Black Panther. M'Baku should have become the Black Panther at the end of Wakanda Forever, and I will die on that hill. We've got Ant-Man. We've got the Sentry. We've got Loki. We've got Thor. We've got all these guys here. But would you not rather they told a tonally consistent and good story instead of going, here's 1,000,001 people in this movie now, guys? I know I would. Probably one of the biggest things as well to talk about just before I wrap up is a couple of notable omissions. They're bringing back a lot of the Fox X-Men names. No Hugh Jackman there. I think that's fair enough. I feel like Deadpool and Wolverine was a fair enough send-off for him. Let's not make the man not drink anything for 3 days ever again. He's in his 50s. We have no Spider-Man here. We have no Doctor Strange here. We have no Wong here. I've seen a lot of people being like, no Daredevil here. Yeah, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? Try and do some medieval torture on God Emperor Doom? Bro, he's dead. He's done for. I'm not entirely convinced that M'Baku's going to survive this movie, and I'm very upset about that. But a few notable omissions here, probably the three biggest being Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Wolverine. I'm okay with that. I'd rather see Spider-Man return to the street level. Doctor Strange is going to be involved in this movie in some capacity, though I have no doubt in my mind about that. And we can let Wolverine lie. We can let him be dead again. But apart from that, like I say, I'm not overly thrilled with this. I feel like everything I've been shouting about and all the bad ideas that I've been shouting about with this movie kind of feel... they sort of feel validated here. And my last thing, my final point here with this is, so it's just started production. That's the big thing. That big cast announcement was, this is everyone who's in it and we've just begun production. Superman got 16 months from the beginning of production until its release date. 16 months. This has 13. This has a little bit over a year. There's a lot more going on with this movie than there is going to be in James Gunn's Superman. And again, James Gunn's Superman feels like a labour of love. This feels like tick the corporate boxes. So I imagine we're going to be seeing a lot of the cupboard that they filmed Quantumania in. I don't imagine there's going to be many real sets. And I'm very worried. So that's it for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this down below. Do you think I've just been a little bit too defeatist in this? Do you think my sort of personal feelings about the Russos and the movies that they make... obviously I've liked a lot of Russo brothers movies. Obviously the Captain America movies are fantastic, but in recent years they've kind of just... They're no longer these sort of pillars of good filmmaking. They're these weird freaks who seem void of all creative depth and creative intelligence, in my opinion, as of recent years. But that's it for me today, like I say. But like I say, if you think I'm just being too defeatist about this, let me know. If my thoughts on the Doom casting and the Russos being back are very clear. Do you think that is colouring my vision on this? Do you think this is clouding my judgment on this? I really want to know what you think down below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Tell all your friends about the handsome man with the good comic movie opinions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.